Hello, everybody. It's 2 o'clock. It's Monday, January 11th. I want to welcome you to the second half of our first day of the Hostos Student Leadership Academy Winter Workshop Series 2021. This is an event that we've been doing for 12 years, where we invite students like yourselves from across the communities of Cheney, particularly Hostos, to join us to have a leadership experience and to learn about things that are going on in the Hostos Student Leadership Academy. We're a program that runs all year round. We have in years past done 52 to 99 volunteer projects every year. We also do workshops in the fall and the spring. And as I said, we've been doing this project, the winter workshops, for the last 12 years. So we're a little different this year because of COVID-19. We're doing everything remote, but we're still going to try to give you the best possible experience that you can have. And this morning we had a great speaker, and this afternoon we have another great speaker who's meeting with us and meeting with Hostos students for the first time. His name is Dan Gannon. I am not going to introduce him. I will be around. If you look at the list of participants, you will see a lot of people that have WW committee on there and attached to their names. Those are people who are members of the Hostos Student Leadership Academy who are serving on the committee that put this together. If you have questions about how to join the Leadership Academy or where to find information after everything's over, you can definitely send them a message throughout the course of this workshop, and they will give you all the information that's necessary. They're also going to keep track of your attendance here. As you know, at the end of this week, if you've attended all 8 workshops, you're going to get a special certificate identifying that you participated and that you have taken on this leadership journey. And I now turn it over to my good friend, Tiana Cordero, to introduce Dan.
Hey guys. So I'm introducing Dan Gannon. He is a goal-crushing guru, serial entrepreneur, and prior service United States Marine. Labeled a high-energy motivator, Dan has spoken to thousands of students and business people all over the country. He is incredibly excited to be returning to Hostos after a 5-year hiatus. So welcome back, Dan.
Thank you. Dropping a quick note in the chat. If you don't already, please take a quick second to grab a piece of paper and a pen. We're going to need that for a quick activity that we're going to do at the very beginning of this presentation. So if you don't already have one, take a quick moment, get up, stretch your legs, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. Definitely going to need that. And then just to make sure that my presentation can click through, perfect. So today we're going to be talking about do it for the dopamine, hacking brain chemistry to achieve success. So we're going to be breaking down how our brains work and how that relates to goal setting and habituation. I'm going to be giving you the super secret tips on understanding ways to leverage your brain chemistry to really develop lifelong, life-lasting goals and strategies to allow yourself to create any kind of success or future you want for yourself in any area, whether that be relationships, whether that's in personal success, mental health and wellness, pretty much anything you're going to be doing, I'm going to teach you the foundational principle of how to get there. So before we get started, what I really want us to do is take a quick second and we're gonna do a small little exercise. I want you to grab your piece of paper and your pen, and I want you to write down 3 things that have given you anxiety. Sorry, I got muted. Either in 2020 or the beginning of 2021. So what I want us to do is just take our pen, take a piece of paper, and I want you to write down 3 things that have given you stress or anxiety in the last 18 or so months. Just write them down. It could be anything from family, from jobs, from school, to relationships, Anything that has given you stress or anxiety. Again, if you're just joining us, we are doing just a quick activity. We are writing down on a piece of paper with pen 3 things that have given us some stress or anxiety during 2020 and 2021. We know that it's been a tough year for everybody, so we just want to write down these 3 stressors, and they can be anything from relationships to school work, to family, stress between your friendships, political stress, anything that comes to mind, stress related. If you want to be an overachiever and do more than 3, that's great. We're going to take another minute or so to write down our stresses. If you're just joining us, we're just taking a moment to write down on a piece of paper with some pen our 3 stresses for 2020, 2021, things that have added anxiety to our lives or maybe depression to our lives, things that we're struggling with. Schoolwork, relationships, friendships, not being able to go out, not being able to go to the movies, not being able to see people, not being able to see our family, not being able to travel. All the things that have become stressors to us this year, the last 18 or so months. All right, you should have by now at least 3 things that you've written down. What I really like for you to do is, now that you've written down, I want you to look at that list and really reflect on it. I want you to look at that list and feel what that has done for you. Feel that stress, feel the weight of that stress. Feel how it's impacted your life. Think about what this has done for 2020 and 2021. Reflect on it. Just take a moment to reflect on those stresses that you wrote down. Great. Another minute to just reflect on the stresses that we wrote down, to see the weight of them, to visualize them in our world, to understand that they are real. We're giving them 2 minutes of acknowledgement. Okay, now that we've acknowledged these stresses, what I want you to do is I want you to take your piece of paper and I want you to hold it up in front of the camera and I want you to rip it up into as many pieces as you see fit. This is a symbolic act for us to take those stresses and forget about them for the next 2 hours and be here in the moment, giving 100% of your energy and effort to what we're going to be learning today and the time we're going to be spending together today. So you wrote down your 3 stresses, you've reflected on them, we've acknowledged that they're real, we've given them their respect. We can't erase them, they're real, they're stresses. We can't eliminate them from our lives. But what we can do is we can tear them up and we can put them to the side and we can focus together for the next 2 hours with positive energy, with positive forward thinking, spending the next 2 hours together, energized, motivated, and ready to learn some amazing strategies to achieve success. All right, perfect. So to get to where we're going, I want us to backtrack to where I've been. This is my hometown in Gaston, Oregon. I'm from a really, really small town. That is Main Street right there. The population of the town is about 550 people. That's a vote for Pedro picture of me up in the left-hand corner. I don't even know how old I was there, but as you can see, I look a little bit different. I wanted to show you where I've been because I didn't have a traditional normal upbringing. I grew up in rural Oregon, a town of 550 people. I had a graduating class of 47. I had a difficult upbringing. My parents, my mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis the year that I was born, and my father has struggled with substance abuse his entire life. And so I didn't really have that, which a lot of people don't, but I didn't really have that mother-father influence, and I didn't really have a stable home. We were always struggling to pay bills. My parents separated when I was really young. Our lights or our water would be shut off constantly. We never had a consistent amount of food in the house. I was very involved in high school, but with athletics, we could never afford to pay for the athletic fees. I could never participate. I had lots of friends giving me rides to and from school and home, and I lived 5 miles away from where the high school was and the middle school was. So I was always walking home and having friends pick me up, which was a very embarrassing thing to constantly have other people taking care of you. And to be honest with you, at this time in my life, I really didn't see a future for myself. I didn't really care. I didn't pay attention in school. I got terrible grades. I graduated with a 2.3 GPA in high school, and I didn't see a future. And so I decided around my junior year, my best friend, James, he is a 5th generation Marine. And he had already decided, it was predetermined, college was not in his future. He was going to join the Marine Corps. And so that was my first real experience with goal setting. In my junior year, I knew that for me to be able to join the Marine Corps, I had to have my high school diploma. That was a rule. You had to have graduated high school to join the Marine Corps. And so I knew that I had to buckle down. And even though I had terrible grades, many F's and D's and C's in my freshman and sophomore year, for me to graduate, I really had to put the work and the effort in. So that's what I did. I buckled down and I barely graduated with a 2.3 GPA. And ever since then, it's been a crazy, wonderful journey. Obviously, I became a United States Marine. I went to college, first in my family to go to college and get a bachelor's degree. I went to Long Island University. I decided to move across the country, born and raised in Oregon, joined the military, went back home to Oregon, went to community college, Portland Community College, got my associate's degree. And then, and again, I was a 2.3 GPA graduate from high school. I got a 3.9 GPA in community college by setting goals and working hard. And again, I was no smarter than I was in high school. I was just more determined, more focused. And then I took a scholarship to go to Long Island University, where I got my bachelor's degree. That's a picture of me receiving an award for student leadership, success in leadership. I also graduated. This is the Dean of Students next to me there. And I have, this is a picture with me with Congressman Steve Israel at the time. I was able to meet tons of politicians and musicians who came to our university. I also spoke at a TEDx for the university, and that's actually Arel Moody, who is going to be speaking to you guys, and you probably know him if you've been around for a couple of years. That's Arel and I at TEDx LIU. That was actually Arel's first TED speaking opportunity. I got to meet D'Brickashaw Ferguson. He used to play for the New York Jets, and I spoke for his D'Brickashaw Ferguson Foundation. And most recently, because of all the time that I spent learning the speaking world and just experiences that I've had, I ended up speaking to thousands and thousands of students and professionals. And now I actually coach CEOs and professionals across the country. And this is all because I realized along the way how important it is to have something to shoot for, something to guide your light towards whatever it is you're looking for. And it wasn't until, and I'm 33 now, but it wasn't until about I turned 30, between 30 and 32, that I realized how powerful goal setting was if it's broken down. And so that's really what I want to teach you guys today, is the power of goal setting and understanding how that works with your brain chemistry. And so I'm going to be teaching you how to recalibrate your superhighways, your brain chemistry superhighways, and I'm going to be breaking down how to set meaningful goals that you can do with anything in your life, whether it's personal, professional, student, school, whatever it is. This formula will work for anything that you're doing. So let's talk about brain chemistry. And what do I mean by brain chemistry? I mean, how do we actually feed our brain chemistry? There's 4 different types of brain chemistries that are active within our brain all day, subconsciously, no matter what. These are your dopamine, which is what we're going to be talking about today. That's the reward chemical. We also have oxytocin. That's the love hormone. So that's like when you get a hug from someone, again, when you play with your dog and things like that, that your brain is releasing oxytocin when that's happening. Serotonin, this is what you get from, exercise, which is also what you get from dopamine, but serotonin's from exercise, from getting out and experiencing the sunlight, to meditating. Serotonin is what brings you down. Like taking a deep breath, for example, is a good way to get a hit of serotonin. And then we have endorphin, which is the painkiller. This is the one where if we're really depressed, we're really down and we're experiencing that emotional pain, sometimes even a physical pain. Endorphin is what releases that from our experience during that time. And you can do this through laughing or through eating chocolate, things like that. They all help us with releasing different brain chemicals. And these brain chemicals, like I said, are happening no matter what in your brains, regardless of how you're thinking and what you're doing. These brain chemicals are firing and they're doing different things for you. There's no way to control when these are going off except for by your actions and acting meaningfully. And so really, the power of this is through superhighways. And so what I mean by superhighways is if your current habit is to go to school or log on to school these days, logging on to school, and then as soon as class is over, you reach for a bag of chips or you reach for ice cream after dinner, right? So you have dinner and every night you have a dessert. That is a dopamine superhighway. The reward chemical dopamine is firing in our brains for anything that bring us a pleasurable activity. And this chemical is a metabolic chemical that has been something that we have had since we were way, way back into the Neanderthal age. And initially it was for things like making sure you found shelter and food. And the brain chemical would fire and be like, wow, that food made me feel satiated. So now I'm gonna look for that food again to get that feeling of feeling full again. And so now that's where it started. And now the brain chemical has gotten to the point where it almost influences all of our habits, both good and bad. So again, dopamine superhighways is something we're going to be focusing a lot of attention on today because they're really what set up the easiest pathways for our habits, both good and bad. So let's talk about how to create dopamine superhighways. So dopamine works in a circle. Starts with the pleasure activity, the memory of that pleasure activity, the searching again for that other hit of dopamine to reach the stimuli to make us feel the pleasure again. This is a cyclical relationship that we have with dopamine. So for example, let's use the easy one of dessert after dinner. If we are always in the habit of getting ice cream or cookies or something sweet after dinner, our brain is going to associate that behavior over time. And your brain is going to develop these superhighways. Now, it takes 45 days for our brain to develop a dopamine superhighway. And what this means is it's like an expressway for that feeling. Instead of fighting upstream for something, your brain is going to go the path of least resistance. And that means that when we are doing our day-to-day activities, things that don't really take a lot of thought, our brain is going to be constantly going towards the path of least resistance. These are our habits. These are things that don't take a lot of brain power. Reaching for the can of soda instead of filling a glass of water. Not calling your parents when you haven't spoken to them in a while versus calling your parents because that takes extra effort and you're not into the habit of that. Anything that can be seen as a habit probably has a dopamine chemical release circle involved in it. And so what we want to do is, and a good example of this is the New Year's time. A lot of people have New Year's resolutions and you hear so many people, I'm going to be eating healthy. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm only going to eat healthy, or I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. These are goals that everybody sets. And the reason why after 2, 3, 4 weeks, these goals never stick is because you're trying to change your entire life habit. Everything right now in your life is already set up for your current dopamine superhighways. So if that means that you don't go to the gym, you're not going to start magically going to the gym and it's going to stick, because your habits, your life, your dopamine superhighways that follow the path of least resistance are not encouraging you to do that. And so when you try to make a change like that, you're actually swimming upstream. The path to accomplish that goal is much more difficult because you're fighting against your brain chemistry when you're doing that. It's literally a subconscious chemistry reaction fight that you're having within your brain while you're trying to change life-changing goals. And again, these are the good examples of this that I like to use are, eating healthy all of a sudden, like just flipping a switch and eating healthy, or going to the gym 5 days a week when you haven't been going to the gym any days of the week. It's just not going to magically happen. Sometimes it's successful for most people, but really, when you're fighting and working against your brain chemistry, the likelihood is that it's not going to happen. So to understand how to create dopamine superhighways, we need to understand this model, this circular model, where it's the pleasure activity that we have and the memory of that pleasure activity allows us to, we metabolize that dopamine hit, and then we start searching for it until we get that stimuli again. So if we eat a really good chocolate chip cookie from Insomnia Cookies, and we know where Insomnia Cookies is, and we know when they're open and when they're closed, and we really are craving it, that's dopamine telling us to go to Insomnia Cookies to get that chocolate chip cookie again. And then that brings us pleasure. And then we remember what that chocolate chip cookie tasted like. So then we start searching for it again. And this is how the circle and the cycle of dopamine works. We get the shot of dopamine, we feel the pleasure, we metabolize it, we remember how it made us feel, and now we start searching for it again. And over the course of 45 days, these will turn into superhighways. So that, for example, every day after school, or every day after work, or every day if it's down the street, you're walking to Insomnia Cookies to get a cookie at the exact same time. And then 45 days, you've developed that superhighway. And if you want to change it, now it's going to take extra effort to get to that point. Does anybody have questions on the dopamine cycle and the superhighways before we move into the next part of the presentation? And feel free, we're all muted right now. So if you have questions, there'll be a Q&A session at the end. I know some of you maybe missed the beginning. There will be a Q&A session at the end where I'll have an opportunity to actually chat with you. If you want to have questions now, drop them in the chat, and I can see the chat as well. All right. So no matter where you are in life, no matter how successful you've been, no matter what great things you've accomplished, you are probably been doing goal setting wrong your entire life. And I've been coaching Fortune 500 CEOs. I've worked with professionals from all different fields, from finance to professional development to yoga instructors. I've worked with everybody, and every single one of them does goal setting wrong. I promise you right now, if you think you know goal setting, I'm going to change your opinion today. Let's talk about it. So, I told you about where I came from, small town in Gaston, had all these successes up until I was about 30, 31 years old. And to give you kind of a quick snapshot, if you missed the beginning, I grew up in a small rural town, and I had so many successes in my life. I joined the Marine Corps. I graduated with honors, had good GPAs when I went to college, first in my family to get my college degree. Cindy, I see your question, I'll get to you. And I also had many successes after college. I had successes in terms of my professional life. I ended up getting a job offer to be a chief operations officer for a small business that grossed $3.5 million a year. I had a chance to work with some of the most amazing professionals in the world, professional athletes to actors and actresses, from John Pierocello and Sharon Townsend on Netflix's Too Hot to Handle. These are all people that I've had the opportunity to work with throughout my life. But there was a point when I turned 30, I'd bought a house, and that was another goal that I'd had, to be the first of my immediate family to buy my own home. I was the first in my family to get a college degree, and I was the first in my family to buy my own home. And for whatever reason, at that point, I'm not sure if it was because I started getting comfortable, I started seeing my success in terms of a consistent paycheck, I stopped progressing. And I kind of fell into a comfort trap, is what I like to call it. When we see success and when we've achieved the goals we want, like me getting my college degree and me buying a house, I didn't really have as much to shoot for anymore. I'd accomplished the only things that I even thought possible. And growing up in a household where we could barely afford to keep the lights on and the water was always shut off and we never had food in the fridge, buying a house was something that I never thought was possible. I didn't even know what that looked like. And for me, I had reached the pinnacle. I was 30 years old. I reached the pinnacle. I got my college degree. I bought a house. I was successful. I had a good job paying six figures. I had already worked and been the chief operations officer at at an organization that was making $3.5 million a year. I was working and coaching and speaking to business professionals and actors and athletes. I had reached my pinnacle. And from about 30 to 32, 33, I really was comfortable and not doing much. I wasn't achieving anything. And I fell into what I like to call comfort traps. And these are dangerous because it's like quicksand. You don't really know that you're in it until you're in it. And then the more you hang out in there, the deeper you get. You just keep falling deeper and deeper into that quicksand. You keep falling deeper and deeper into being comfortable. You keep adopting more comfortable habits, not working out, not studying, not being a lifelong learner, and not reading any books. You fall into just being comfortable and just going through your day to day. I was doing things that were easy. I was playing a lot of video games. I was watching a lot of movies. And these things that I loved doing and I love doing and I'm never going to stop doing, but I was doing them to a point where it was no longer for enjoyment. It was for comfort and it was for ease. And it's a very dangerous place to be because this is where most people in their lives, they divert. When you're young, you have a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy. When you're in high school, when you're in college, you have a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy. You want to get out of a current situation that you're in. You want to prove to your family that you can do something. You want to prove to yourself that you can do something. So you're setting these goals and you're reaching for something. And then as you start to reach for those and life starts to come to you to make those things possible, you attract all the tools and all the things and all the relationships that you need to reach that point. Once you get there, if you don't have something to continue to strive for, you start to get comfortable. And what's scary about it is it happens almost without you knowing. For me, it was when I bought a house. I was like, I had all these lofty ideas for it. I wanted to, expand here and do this room there and whatever. And then I started getting busier at my job. I started getting more clients. And then the house project started taking a back seat. And then relationships started taking a back seat. And it was almost like a snowball. It just slowly started pushing down the comfort hill. And as it started getting farther and farther down, it started going faster and faster and faster until I really wasn't shooting for anything. I wasn't striving for anything. I wasn't trying to make myself better. I stopped reading books. I really stopped trying to progress myself and shooting for something better. And that all changed this year. And I want to share with you how that all changed. Midway through the year, COVID was in full swing. All my friends and family across the country were having just unbelievable experiences, losing family and friends. Everything was being shut down. A lot of my friends were losing their jobs. It was a very scary and dangerous time for so many of us, and it still is. And for my job, for many, many years, I traveled a lot, like 150 days a year. I'm traveling in hotels, on planes, meeting people, going places, traveling all over. And this is the first time in about 5 years when I've had the actual time to sit down and reflect on what I was doing with my life. And I have to say, I was really disappointed. The last 3 years were they weren't what I expected from myself. I had so many great years of achieving and pushing and striving and proving to myself that I could do things that I never thought possible growing up in a small town with a mom diagnosed with multiple sclerosis on welfare her whole life and a father who, always struggled with substances. I never thought these things were possible for me. And I had achieved everything. And I had that moment after, around 33, midway through this year, when I looked back and I was like, what have I done with my life in the last 2 years? I've just been comfortable living, my normal life and playing video games and watching movies. I never felt that, I never felt like I wasn't achieving, but I never realized that I wasn't doing anything. I had fallen deep, deep into the quicksand of the comfort trap. And so I had an awakening. May rolls around. I realized I'd gained a bunch of weight. I realized that I had no goals. I had nothing to shoot for. I realized that if I wanted to continue to be the best version of myself, I needed to have something to strive for. I needed to have something in the future to look forward to push me, to motivate me, to make me better in all areas of my life. And that's where Mount Kilimanjaro came into vision. So I'm not sure if you know this, but Mount Kilimanjaro is the highest peak in Africa at 19,341 feet. To give you an idea, of how tall that is, I put the highest peak in New York. That's Mount Marcy at 5,344 feet. There's a huge difference there. It's over 3 times the size of the highest point in all of New York State. Now, I want to back up a little bit before I talk about this. The first thing is, in my military career, I actually injured my back very bad, and I've hurt my back multiple times since then, to the point where running is something that I just can't do anymore. It's too hard on my back. The trauma of even just running on pavement or on a track is too bad for my back. I can't do it. So I've had to exercise and stay healthy in other ways. And climbing something like Mount Kilimanjaro is something that I never thought was going to be possible. And I never even considered doing anything like that. After the military, I was like, I'm never putting on a pack again. I am never doing this stuff ever again, right? I'm done with it. I'll be fine playing my video games and going on walks with my dog. That's good for me. I'm gonna live a happy life. But in May, when I had that moment, when I realized I needed to crawl out of the quicksand, I wanted to set a goal that was lofty, challenging, yet achievable. Challenging yet achievable became my mantra. Challenging but achievable. I knew that that was going to be the foundation for everything I'm going to do moving forward for the rest of my life. Set challenging but achievable goals. And so I set 3 goals that day. The first one was to get my master's in business administration. I'm enrolled in classes now. The second one was to be better with my relationships. I wanted to be a better partner, and I wanted to be a better friend. And that meant that I needed to start prioritizing my relationships with people. And the last goal was to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And again, to remind you, I was not the healthiest I'd ever been. I was gaining weight. I haven't been very active at this point. And I knew that I needed to make a change, but I didn't really know what that was. So Mount Kilimanjaro was my goalpost. That was where I was going to aim. And so I started training for it. And I gave myself a 100-mile a month challenge, so that every month I was going to walk or hike, because again, I can't run. I was going to walk or hike 100 miles. And I knew that if I was going to achieve that 100 miles, I was going to have to break it down. I was going to have to break it down to the point where I could measure it week over week. This was very hard for me because I'd never done this before. I'd never taken a goal and broken it down week over week so that I could actually achieve something. And I was focusing on something I call little wins. And this is a very common term used for a lot of people, is focus on little wins. So what I want you to do real quick is I want you to take your thumb on your right hand and stick it up. And I want you to take your finger on your left hand and point it out. Now, when we learn things in life, there's a difficult process when it comes to learning things, right? We don't learn things very, very easily. It takes time and repetition. So what I'd like for you to do, if you have your thumb up and your finger out, I want you to switch and put your thumb up on your left hand and your finger out on your right hand. I want you to switch again. Now switch again. Now switch again. Now faster. Faster. As fast as you can. Switch it. So we start getting our thoughts all screwed up because that's not something that we do very often, right? We screw up that stuff because we don't practice putting our thumbs and our fingers out. It's something we haven't put a lot of thought and we haven't put repetition in, so we don't know it very well. This is something that we do with everything that we start learning. If you get a new job, if you're in a new class, to get it going is the challenging part. To get it going is usually where we start stumbling all over ourselves. So that's okay. Learning is okay. If you did it all the time, you guys would be really, really good at putting your fingers out and switching it. It would be something that would be an easy process for you if you practiced it all the time. And that's where we need to get to. But this was like what it was for me. This goal from May until August, I just didn't really know how to set goals. I wasn't focused. I didn't have a good plan. And then that way, when August rolled around, I said, hey, I'm going to do 100 miles in August, and I'm going to break it down so I can track my progress week over week and see where I'm hitting my goals and see where I'm doing, getting the most success out of it. And that's when I started to learn about brain chemistry. I read a book called Habits of a Happy Brain, and it talked all about how you can learn and change your dopamine superhighways and learn how to leverage your dopamine and other brain chemicals. And so to answer Cindy's question, I think, let me go back. Where was it here? How many days does it take for dopamine highways and habits to be created? The standard is 45 days. So this is, if you're just doing normal dopamine hits and you're just trying to change your strategy, it takes 45 days to create these new dopamine superhighways. And that was where I had started my journey in this training with the month of August. And I think it's Shauna. Yes, Shauna, or Shauna Cherie Patterson. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Yes, this is how addiction works. This dopamine is very much a process of addiction. So it's the same, absolutely the same concept. Pleasure, memory of that pleasure, searching for that again, getting the stimuli and pleasure again. That's the same thing, 100%. And Deborah asked, do you feel like you and others falling into comfort traps during quarantine? Yes, quarantine 2020 is a comfort trap, and not in the most comfortable way, just in a way of being forced to do things that are easy because we're overwhelmed by all the exterior pressures on us, by not being able to see friends, everything politically that happened in 2020, the changes and the transitions from school, not, having to do school virtually, having to do this presentation virtually. These are all ways that have forced us into creating new habits. And the reason why what I'm teaching you is going to be so important as we move out of this pandemic is because you are going to have to change these habits that have now been formed because of quarantine, because of this pandemic. What I'm teaching you today could literally save your life if you use it well. If you use it right, it could literally save your life, because your life is different than what it was in 2019. That's a fact. Your life is different. And what we are going into in 2021 or 2022, whenever this pandemic is over and we're allowed outside again, your life will be different. And it's going to be up to you to determine how you face that adversity and how you decide to change and navigate what that new normal is going to be like. So yes, now is the time to start realizing your comfort traps. Now is the time to start realizing what you've fallen into and what your new life is like, so that you can change it and reach for something greater. And again, this is something that I personally felt in the middle of this year, and this is what motivated me to set these goals. And so I'm not just giving you, I'm not just a speaker talking about how wonderful and like, I've lived this. My life is a testament to this. I have lived this, and I've studied this, and I've researched this. And this to me is the formula. What I'm going to teach you is the shortcut to what took me 15 years to learn and took me several years to study. I'm giving you the shortcut version of that. So I hope it speaks to you the same way it spoke to me. And again, there was actually a really good question from Junior, and I want to answer this before we move forward. So is getting comfortable really that bad if you know how to keep a healthy balance of other things? And that's a great question. And I'm going to reference Jeff Bezos on this one. I'm not a big fan of him personally, but I'm a big fan of this statement that he said. There's something called work-life harmony. And he was specifically speaking to, his work and his personal life. But yes, Junior, what I would say is that there is a fine line between pushing so hard that you forget about the people and your own mental health and wellness along the process. And everything I'm teaching you today is going to be about balancing those to have the best work life or school life harmony you possibly can. We cannot be successful in anything that we're doing unless we have harmony in all of our areas of life. So making sure that if we're working really hard on school, that we're spending time with our family. If we have kids, that we're spending time with our kids. If we have a partner, that we're spending time with our partner. It's all about balance. If you're not healthy mentally, you're not going to be the best version of yourself professionally. If you're not healthy physically, you're not going to be the best version of yourself professionally. And this goes across all different areas. You can use the same equation for anything you're trying to do, professionally or for school, for life, with your partner, with your kids, with your family. All of these things are interconnected, and we are the best version of ourselves when we have harmony within all of those pieces. Okay, just want to make sure I'm answering questions as they go. Perfect. Okay, so I told you about Mount Kilimanjaro and I told you about my goals. And I want to tell you, when I set that 100-mile goal for the month of August of walking and hiking, I wanted to tell you how I set that. So I want to break it down the easiest possible way. And again, this is the model that I used. There's tons of different ways to set goals, but this to me is the most encompassing way to set goals. And I call it Guide Me to Effectiveness, GMTE. That's what I really want you to remember. Guide Me to Effectiveness, GMTE. This is how we set goals the right way. Most people set goals the wrong way by saying, I want to be XYZ in 3 years. I want to achieve XYZ in a year. That's how most of us think of goals. We say, I want to be here at X time. And then that's all we do. We say, we want to be here at X time. That's our goal. I want to graduate with my associate's degree. That's great. But there's more you can do to make sure you're setting yourself up for success on that journey. I want to make sure that I'm 10 pounds lighter by March. That's great. How are you getting there? What's your measurement? What are the tools you are using to make sure you're 10 pounds lighter by March? That is Guide Me to Effectiveness. So what is it? The first is G, that's your goal. So define your goal. And this could be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. It could be to work out more. It could be to be a better partner, get a new job, make more money, get out of debt. There's tons of different ways you can set a goal, but just define what it is. You have to be very clear. You can't say, I want to be healthy. That is not defined enough, because what does healthy mean? If you want to define it, say, I want to be healthy by eating better and working out more. Now you have at least something that you can start building a goal within. Being healthy is too vague. You need to be specific enough that you have something you can start reverse engineering backwards into its most granular point for your measurement. Okay, so the first step is goal, and to define a goal and be specific as possible. So I gave you vague ones because I want you to start thinking about what your specific goals may be. So while we're going through this, I want you to participate. Take out your pen, take out your piece of paper again, and I want you to write down at least one goal. Write down one goal that you can do right now during the month of January only. We're only talking about January for this goal. This is one goal for the month of January, which you have close to 20 days to do. So think about something that you might be able to achieve in 20 days. That could be a homework assignment. That could be reaching out to your parents more often, your family more often. That could be being a better partner. That could be making healthy choices. So, for example, you want to have better mental health and mental wellness. So you could, for example, set a goal to meditate. I want to meditate more often. I want to work out more often. Set a goal for January that you can achieve in 20 days. This is our January goal. That's a great goal. Leighton, I hope Leighton probably, make a friend. That's a great goal. And actually will come into play later on in this presentation. Again, you should write down a goal. And again, it should be goal for 20 days in January. It could be anything that you currently want to do. Be more organized with my personal agenda. That's a great one. Finish another short animation project. Perfect. Get a job. Great. Great goals. Work in a paid internship. Sorry, I'm not catching them all. They're coming in hot. They're coming in quick. I can't catch them all. Have my learner permit. Work out more. Pray more. Perfect. Be more social. Perfect. Great job. Losing weight. Perfect. 1 hour meditation. Love it. Read a book. Perfect. Pass a psychology quiz. It's probably a good idea. Read 2 books. Great. Remember, 20 days. That's what we're setting this for. These are really, really good. Couple learner permits in there. That's amazing. All right. So we've defined our goal. We've written down our goal. We've defined it. We know what we're going to be shooting for to get to the end of January 2021. That's what we're doing. Next step. We want to measure this goal. If you take nothing away for this entire presentation, nothing away from my stories, nothing away from the entire time we spent together, this is the one thing that I want you to get, is how to create a measurement for your goal. This is where most people make a vital mistake. They don't do their measurements right. And this is where the dopamine process really kicks in. We have our goal: gain weight, lose weight, do our homework, read a book, right? We have these goals. Now we need to apply some kind of numerical value to them so that we can measure them. So for an example, if our goal is to gain weight, how do we want to gain weight? How much weight do we want to gain? Let's say it's 10 pounds. That's probably an unachievable goal in 20 days. So what we should do is we should look at that 20 days and what we can do to fit in there to achieve that goal. So let's just say 2 pounds. We want to gain 2 pounds of weight in 20 days. And to do that a healthy way, we want to make sure that we're, again, because the fitness side, we don't want to just be eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and throwing on all this protein, because that'll make us be what we like to call just like a muscly fat. That's not good. We don't want to be muscly fat. What we want to do is we want to be healthy and we want to be strong if we want to gain weight. So let's say 2 pounds for the month of January. So or the 2 pounds for the rest of the month of January. So you got to do a pound every 10 days. Now we've started to put a numerical value to our goal: 1 pound every 10 days. So how do we do that? So we need to figure out what that means for the gym. We need to figure out what that means for our diet. We need to figure out what that means to make sure that we're staying on track to get our 1 pound every 10 days so that we're 2 pounds heavier, 2 pounds stronger at the end of the month of January. Same thing with weight loss. You could go, I want to lose 10 pounds in 20 days. Great. So you know that if you break that down, that's 5 pounds in a 10-day period of time. So what do we do to lose those 5 pounds? We break it down. And what I would like for you to do, as much as possible, is to break it down to a daily goal. What does that look like daily? Now, sometimes it's hard to do a daily goal. So for example, with 20 days, what we would do, so let's say it's losing weight. I don't want you to stress about going to the gym every single day. So let's look at the 20 days that are left in January and say, how many of those days could we realistically put into our goal? Remember, challenging but achievable. Challenging but achievable should be the mantra for their measurements, right? Challenging but achievable is our mantra for our measurements. If you could do 10 of those 20 days, you're exercising 50% of the 20 days that are left for your goal. And that means that you have some built-in wiggle room, so you're not having to exercise every day to account for anything that challenging that might come up in your schedule. But we're also making sure that we're setting it up to be something that we can achieve every single day. And I want to focus on that little statement at the very, very bottom of the slide: little wins. Little wins is the way we create these habits. By creating something challenging but achievable that we cannot excuse every single day, we can create a new dopamine superhighway. If, for example, and I've worked with a ton of clients, I have one client of mine who is writing a book. And the client of mine said that she likes to set things for like 32 minutes. And instead of 30 minutes, she likes to do it for 32 minutes because she likes it when, she usually takes 1 or 2 minutes to get her pens, to get sit down at her desk, to organize everything so she can get ready to sit down and write. So she likes to set 32-minute goals. So what happened is she works 12 hours a day, 10, 12 hours a day, and then she writes for her book at the end of the day. And when we sat down and started coaching, she was telling me how she started getting burnt out and work was turning into work for writing her book. And she couldn't sit down and do the 32 minutes that she originally wanted to. And she kept pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off. Because it was after a 12-hour day, she didn't want to sit down at the computer for another 32 minutes and do her book. So what our solution was to say, how about instead of trying to do a 30-minute chunk of time, we broke it down into smaller chunks of time. And so what she does now is she wakes up 15 minutes earlier, gets to her desk 15 minutes earlier. So at 7:45, she's sitting down before her day is started, before she's tired, and she writes 15 minutes for her book. And then once she's finished with her day, she only has to worry about another 15 minutes or 16 minutes in her case, because she likes to do 32 minutes. So we want to set up our goals in a way that is going to be achievable, but challenging, and also focusing on the strategy of little wins. How can we set this goal up daily and monthly so that we're not missing it, so that we're hitting it every single day? And why is this important when it relates to dopamine? Because if we can measure it and we have a timeline and we can see that we're hitting our goals, that's when we get the shots of dopamine. And it literally works how a drug addict gets their drugs. It's the same it's the same concept, same circular relationship. You start doing well and you start hitting that goal and you start feeling good and you can see it and you can feel what it does to you, feel what it does to your body. You're going to want more and more of it. And you're going to keep building on it and you're going to keep pushing forward. And if you do little wins, you don't fall off the wagon. Little wins is what helps us stay focused, and little wins is what helps us stay on track so that we can develop these strategies 45 days in. That's really where the meaningful stuff happens. 45 days, it becomes a habit and it lasts. And it's so much easier to maintain that habit. So if it's working out, if it's exercising, if it's staying focused, whatever it is, anything that you want, partner, relationship, any kind of goal you want, break it down to its smallest possible measurement that you can do every single day. And I can go on and on with examples. We can do, make sure you give a phone call, send a text to a friend, log into a chat room. Some of you have goals to make a friend. So log into a chat room, get on Clubhouse, the app. If you have never used it before, Clubhouse is a really cool app. It's where you basically have an account and you can log in to listen to chat rooms. You can raise your hand. You can interact with people. There's tons of people on there, from actors and actresses. You can listen to their thoughts. There's chat rooms from anything from basically finance and real estate to students to relationship talk to anything. But yeah, so Clubhouse is a good one. There's tons of ways to interact with people, but try to make meaningful relationships. And what does that look like? So break it down to its smallest possible measurement and try to build it in a way that has little wins, something you can focus on daily. All right. Next step is timeline. So I've already given you your timeline. I gave you a layup on this one. We know your timeline is about 20 days till the end of the month of January, right? But when we do other goals, we want to look at what that timeline looks like. And so maybe this is a goal that we achieve in 2 years, like getting your associate's degree or getting your bachelor's degree in 3 years or 4 years or 2 years, depending on where you're at in your education. So that might be a 2-year goal. And with that one, we reverse engineer it all the way back to what the day looks like. We're always reverse engineering our goals all the way back to its smallest possible measurement so that we're taking daily action. If at all possible, daily action is ideal. If we can't do it daily, some things don't need to be daily. We want it to be as broken down as possible. So if maybe it's twice a week or 3 times a week or once a week, whatever the smallest possible measurement is for that goal that you're setting. And there's no right or wrong answers for this. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Just always keep in mind that mantra of challenging but achievable. Don't make it too easy, because if it's too easy, it's not going to be as rewarding. There's no effort going into it. And it's, again, you're staying comfortable. You're not creating new dopamine superhighways. You're never going to develop a dopamine superhighway if you're doing something so infrequently that it's not creating a habit. So the smaller we can break it down, the more frequently we do it, the faster we are creating habits, and those habits stick. Again, remember, this should be difficult. If you've never done it this way and you've never broken it down this way and you've never had to reverse engineer it, it's just like our little thumb pointer game, right? It's difficult. We can't see all the ways we break it down. That's okay. This takes practice and repetition. Goal setting is a perishable skill. If we don't goal set frequently and we don't do this process with all of the things that we're trying to do, you will forget it. You will forget how to break things down to their smallest possible measurement, and you'll forget to put a timeline on them. If you just say, I want to lose weight, and you have no measurements and you have no timeline, there's no way you're going to stay on track. There's no way you're going to stay on track, and there's no way that you're going to reach your goals because you don't have anything defined. There's nothing clear there. Yes, a goal to lose weight, but how do you get there? How do you get from point A to point B? How do you get from where you are now to where your goalpost is? You have to do the measurement and the timeline piece. These 2 pieces are the most important pieces that most people forget when it comes to goal setting. Measurement and your timeline. Guide me to effectiveness. And let's talk about the evaluation. This is where rubber meets the road. This is where we're honest with ourselves. Did we meet our goal? Did we not meet our goal? Why did we not meet our goal? What happened? Did we meet our goal? What did we do right? Right? We set a goal to lose weight, 20 days. You lost 10 pounds. How did I do it? What did I do to stay on track? What were the tools that I did? What were the habits that I made? What were the actions that I took to make sure I was hitting that goal? What I would recommend for all of you is, if possible, set this up so you can evaluate weekly. Weekly evaluation is something that's very, very easy to do. It doesn't take a lot of time at all, but you can look back on your goal and you can say, oh, what was I doing here? How did I hit? How did I miss? What tools did I use? Did I use an app? There's tons of goal setting apps and efficiency apps that you can use out there. If you have an iPhone, there's tons of those reminders and stuff on your iPhone. Do I have an accountability buddy? Do I have a visualization tool? Whatever it is, there's so many ways for you to stay on track. And I highly recommend that this is something that you build in when your measurement in your timeline so that you can evaluate. This is where we make the most improvement. This is where we find what we're doing is either working or not working, and we change and adjust. Every great, successful person does this. Every single great, successful person does this, the evaluation part. They evaluate themselves, they evaluate their businesses, they evaluate their strategies, they evaluate their marketing, they evaluate influencers, social media influencers. If you've ever read any books on social media influencing, evaluation, testing and evaluation is the things that they do the most. They put something, they post it, right? So if you've ever heard of Prince EA, he started out and he launched a whole bunch of videos, different things, him doing spoken word, him posting videos of this and that and whatever. And what he did was through that process, he identified what his community responded most to, what his community spent the most time watching, most likes, the most whatever. So and then once he determined that, he was then now gearing all of his posts towards that. So he was getting that momentum from everybody. And then he was building and developing his tribe. We do our goal setting the same way. We test something, we lay out a goal, we put out a measurement. Is this going to work? Okay, it didn't work this week. Now I need to make some changes and I need to retest this new thing towards this goal next week. And then after that week, did that work? Did it not work? Okay, I need to change it. I need to adjust it and I need to move forward. I have a client, for example, who we had a couple of goals, and she's a big person in finance. She actually manages 18 credit unions internationally. She has a lot of pressure and stress on her life. She's actually the director of client experience. So all the clients that come to use her bank, she's the person that they call when they have problems and challenges. So she's taking just complaints and customer grievance calls and everything all day long. And what was happening with her during the pandemic, for example, and this is when her and I coaching calls take place, she was carrying a lot of weight on her shoulders. Because of the pandemic, she wasn't able to do the things that really were a release for her mentally. She wasn't able to go to concerts. She wasn't able to travel. She wasn't able to go on hikes. She just wasn't able to do those things like she normally used to do to get her, the mental health breaks that she needed in her life. And so what happened was, as we were setting her goals, we were realizing that she was having a lot of trouble staying focused. She was having a lot of trouble understanding why she was so tired at the end of every day. She was having a lot of trouble figuring out why, even though she was motivated to get her goal done, to work on her life, that she was not having the ability the strength to, she was just mentally and physically defeated every day. And what we found through a few weeks of working together was that she wasn't doing anything for her mental health and wellness. She had not worked out in months. And that's something that she knew she needed to stay right of mind, right of body, and to stay motivated and healthy. She needed that physical something in her body because her life was out of balance. Her harmony was messed up. She was doing so much work and taking so much of the brunt of these negative clients' experiences and working with these clients. She was getting exhausted. She was getting beat down, and she had no release, no physical, mental health release for this. And so we realized that a few weeks in, and what do? We changed her goals. I encouraged her. She bought a treadmill, or actually a rowing machine. She bought a rowing machine. And now what she does is, because she likes to multitask, she bought a rowing machine, and she has an iPad. And so she listens to her sermons, or she listens to master classes or TED Talks while she's on a rowing machine. So she's getting, 2-for-1. She's working out and getting that physical part, but she's also getting the mental part where she can listen to her sermons if she needs to feel some motivation or some mental health breaks, or she can also get some advancing of her education and some of that learning, that lifelong learning that she loves and she strives for, that makes her feel good while she's working out. So these are all things that we realize as we set goals. And the only way we realize them is if we follow this template, GMTE. We have to follow that template, GMTE. This is the foundational principle for everything that you're going to do when it comes to goal setting, GMTE. If you mess up one part of this, it's not going to be effective. If you don't have clearly defined goals and you don't have small measurables, something that you can measure either in a day or during a week, and you don't set a clearly defined timeline for when you want these to be achieved. And I want to make clarification about that part too. Our timeline doesn't mean the goal ends. That just means that's the end of our current measurement. We can always move the goalposts, and you should always be moving the goalposts. Always, always, always be moving the goalposts in life. You should never reach a point where you say you've arrived and you're done, because then you're going to fall into the comfort trap that I was in, where I arrived and I was done, and I never achieved anymore after that. You got to keep making sure you're moving the goalposts, keep setting and striving for different goals. And they can be build on goals. It doesn't mean that you know, like let's say your goal is to lose weight in January. You can work out in January and then you can go all the way until the end of January and set a new goal for February and for March and so on. All right. So I want to talk about 2 tools that we can use when we're setting goals to not only hack dopamine, but also to make sure we're staying on track. And the first step is visualization. And I want to talk a little bit more about my Mount Kilimanjaro training program that I was in, my 100 miles in the month of August. And then I want to talk about an accountability buddy. So I'm not sure if any of you guys have the Apple Watch. I have the Apple Watch here. I use my Apple Watch for my fitness tracking. To me, it was a worthwhile investment. And I knew that it was going to be meaningful for me to be able to track my fitness goals. So I wanted to show you, again, when I told you guys initially that my goal was to start being healthier in May. And I'm showing you now a snapshot from this year, June through November. And I wanted to show you this, even though it's a little personal, because it is the visual representation of goal setting in action. So June and July, I knew I wanted to get healthy, but I hadn't really chosen the goal for Mount Kilimanjaro at this point. Or I had chosen the goal, but I didn't have a plan for how I was going to execute. I said, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, but I didn't have a plan for how I was going to train for that. And I knew that if I was going to do a hike that was of that magnitude, you're looking at over 100 miles and over 15,000 feet in elevation gain. I knew I needed to start planning for it. I knew that that was something that I was going to have to start doing. So I set a goal in August, was the first year, August, to do 100 miles in the month of August of walking and hiking. And as you can see, June and July, I didn't really do much. There were many days when I barely hit my stand goal. And I just, for you guys who don't know the way that the health app works on your iWatch, the red ring is your calories or your move goal. The green ring is your exercise goal. The blue ring is how many hours you stand throughout the day. And then if you look really closely next to those little circles, there's these green dots. That green dot means you did some kind of exercise that day. Like you actually did an exercise of some kind, going on a walk, whatever it is. It gives you a green dot for doing the exercise. And so I didn't show all of my history for the year, but the way that June and July look, that's how my whole year was. Maybe hit one day, maybe not. Maybe do half of my move calories. Maybe some days I'll get an exercise in. So if you look, for example, at July, I worked out 3 days in July. That's all I did. I worked out only 3 days in July. And so I needed to change my whole habit. And so in the month of August, I set a goal, 100 miles in the month of August. I broke that down to 25 miles a week because I knew I could measure that. It was challenging, but it was achievable. Challenging, but achievable was my mantra. 100 miles in the month of August. I could do this. And what I found was that the dopamine and the measurements in the timeline make all the difference. And what did I do? I started working out. I did, 25 miles the first week. I overachieved and so on and so forth. I ended up overachieving that goal. In the month of August, I went over 100 miles. And I also realized something, and this was my big moment. Remember when the very beginning, when I told you that I haven't run since I injured my back, and it was something that I'd never had the desire to do. I never felt like I could do. If you look at the month of August and you look around the 17th, those days, the 17th to the 23rd, something really special happened to me. And this was the moment that I realized that do it for the dopamine works. This was the moment that I realized that I had unlocked something within myself and I had unlocked something within goal setting that I'd never realized before. Understanding your brain chemistry and how it impacts your day-to-day life is so meaningful, because for over 10 years, I had no desire to run. I actually was afraid of running because of what it would do to my back and my body. I was afraid of that feeling of not being able to run when my friends could run. It was embarrassing that I couldn't do it. It was intimidating. Ever since my back injury, running had been intimidating. And in August, I started walking and hiking. I would do 7-mile hikes, no problem. I'd go on walks. I walked very frequently. Again, 25 miles a week. I was doing it no problem. But the magical thing that happened in the 3rd week of August is that at night, I would be laying down in bed and my body would be craving a run. 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, I'd be getting ready to go to bed. I'd be laying in bed with so much pent up energy. My body was craving to get out and go for a run. I have never in 10 years had that feeling, ever. My body wanted to go out for a run so bad at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. It was craving that dopamine. It was craving that hit of dopamine. It wanted it so bad. I would be shaking in bed, so excited to want to go on a run. It's a powerful thing. Understanding our bodies and our brain chemistry is so powerful. And when you hack it to use it for your goals, you can achieve anything you set your mind to, anything. And I want to give you some examples of what this looks like. These are 4 standout exercises that I did from August and beyond. Now in September, I went on a cross-country trip and I hiked a few places because, again, I had to train for Mount Kilimanjaro. I had to get some elevation gain in, and on the East Coast, there's just not a whole lot of elevation. But I wanted to show you a couple of different exercises. In Philadelphia in Wissahickon State Park, I did a 10-mile hike. And it shows my calories burned, my elevation, it shows my pacing, how fast or slow I went. And then I did another 10-mile hike in Gettysburg with a little bit of elevation gain. And then I went to the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee and I did a 4,000, close to 3,000 elevation gain hike in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, at the Great Smoky Mountains. These are things that I never thought was possible. I never thought in a million years I'd be able to hike like this again. This is stuff that I did in the Marine Corps when I was 19, 20 years old. This is the type of hiking that I would do then. And I hurt my back, injured my back multiple times since then. I never thought that I was going to do anything like this ever again in my life. And then I went to the Grand Canyon. And unfortunately, I watch died, so it doesn't show all of it. But I hiked down into a mountain and then towards the river, and I came all the way back. This is the power of dopamine and goal setting at work. This is the power of realizing that if I leverage it the right way, dopamine can have a lasting, lifelong impact on how I live and move within every day. Somebody who's blown their back out multiple times, has had multiple back injuries since the military, threw on a pack and hiked miles upon miles in 2, 3, and 4 months, training for a hike that I'm going to do in a couple of years in Mount Kilimanjaro. Never thought this was possible. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I was going to do anything like this. And not only was I doing it, I was exceeding at it. And I was learning about myself in the process. And I was learning about goal setting in the process. And I was practicing this goal setting template, this, defining the goal and setting my measurable and setting my timeline and evaluating myself along the process to make sure that I'm always growing, that I'm learning where I missed and I'm learning where I hit to make sure that I'm doing more hits of dopamine than more misses. Because if we want to create dopamine superhighways, this is how we do it. If we want to leverage and hack our brain chemistry to achieve our success, if we follow this template, this is how we do it. And this is a guy who had not wanted to run in 10 years, had not wanted to go on hikes of this length because of the intimidation and the fear that I had of what my body would do. Because when I used to work out, I used to hurt my back a lot. This is how powerful this is for you. And I want this level of success for all of you. I want you to take this in whatever is the most meaningful, important things in your life, whether that's to, get a great paying job or to get a job that's within something that you're passionate about, to be a great partner in your life, to your spouse or to your boyfriend and girlfriend or whoever that may be, to be a great partner, to be a great student, to be healthy, mental health, physical health, whatever that health looks like for you, to be a better gamer, to be a better reader, to be a lifelong learner. This goal setting template works for anything and everything. And if you're honest about yourself and you set up the evaluation tools, you will always achieve, because you're always learning and you're always setting new goals. You're always moving the goalposts for yourself. You're always hitting that. And I want that for each and every one of you. And it did it for me. I mean, this is practice and purpose right here. And it was powerful for me. It was life-changing for me. So I want to talk about one more piece to this, and it's an accountability buddy. In everything that we do, we can go a lot further if we have somebody to help us. We can do a lot on our own. So we're very powerful human beings. We're very powerful, we're very meaningful. Our ability to survive, our ability to do things that nobody thought we could do we can do that on our own. But we can go 10 times farther if we have somebody with us, 10 times farther. And so what I would encourage all of you to do, whether that's within this group or within your classmates or your friends, to find an accountability buddy and be honest with that person. Do the evaluation with them, do the evaluation tools, work with them, work together with them, share them, set goals together, share each other's goals and check in on it. Hey, have you hit your goal? Did you do your thing today? With each one of my coaching clients, the reason they pay me to help them set up their goals, the reason they want me to work with them is because I am their ultimate accountability buddy. When we're in it, when we're trying to set things, sometimes we can't see everything. You know, how many times have you been in an argument or have you had a debate and somebody brings in a unique perspective that you never thought of before? That's what an accountability buddy does for you. They show you the different ways you can achieve something. They show you the different ways, and they even know you better. Like, I have my best friend's my accountability buddy, and he knows me sometimes better than I know myself, right? Those are the types of people that can unlock things for you. Those are the types of people that can hold you accountable, send you that text message, give you that phone call. Hey, have you done what you need to do? All right, get up off your booty and let's go do it, right? Like, they're that person that says, don't be a failure. You set this with intention and meaning. Don't be a failure. Go out there and get it. Get up off your booty and go achieve that goal, whatever it may be. So that's something that I really want you to keep in mind when you're doing this. You know, you have your visualization piece, but you also have your accountability buddy. Your accountability buddy is the one who keeps you going when you're feeling out. You go 3 days of no working out, 3 days of no reading, 3 days of no reaching out to your family, whatever that goal is. Your accountability buddy is the one who's going to send you that text message, give you that kick in the pants, and tell you to get back out there and get on it. This takes time. You need somebody to be there to motivate you. And if you need somebody and you don't have anybody, follow me on Instagram. I will be your accountability buddy. Follow me right now on Instagram, send me a DM and say, I want you to be my accountability buddy and this is my goal. And I'll reach out to you. I'll check in on you. I will be there for you every step of the way. We are all in this together. And if you need my IG, it's at Dan the Man Gannon. Real simple. It'll also be on the last slide. Follow me, shoot me a DM, tell me what your goal is, and we will be in it together. I also recommend that you don't only use me, use many accountability buddies. You can use so many different accountability buddies, but you need an accountability buddy. All right, and I want to do a little bit of summarization of what we talked about. Guide me to effectiveness. This is your foundational principle for setting goals. Your goal, your measurement, your timeline, and your effectiveness, right? Your evaluation of your goal, that's what it is. Goal, measurement, timeline, and evaluation. Those are the things you need to focus on. Guide me to effectiveness. And anything you're doing, if you set up those 4 things, you put the groundwork first, you'll be able to get to it. Now remember, this is where the work goes in the beginning. When you're doing the Guide Me to Effectiveness practice, you do this before you start putting work down. And this is to make it more efficient on the back end. I deal with a lot of people in business, for example, who set goals and they come to me and they're like, well, I already have this goal in place. And I'm like, well, but did you break it down to your measurement, your timeline? They're like, no, I haven't. So what they did was they spent a lot of time working toward their goal and it wasn't effective. They spent a lot of time spinning their wheels on things that actually weren't moving them towards their goal because they didn't break it down to have a clearly defined goal, to have a measurement, and then within a specific timeline, and then they weren't consistently evaluating themselves to see how that goal was working for them. So Guide Me to Effectiveness. Use it. It's your foundation for all effective goal setting, all effective goal achieving. Guide Me to Effectiveness. And remember, we have dopamine superhighways that are for negative habits and for positive habits. And the only way we can keep to habits that stick is by creating little wins and by leveraging and hacking our brain chemistry to create positive superhighways. Remember, you currently have negative superhighways or comfort focused superhighways in ways that maybe you shouldn't. Reaching for that bag of chips, having dessert after dinner every night, sitting down and watching TV instead of going for a walk. Those are negative superhighways. Those are the easy things. Those are the things that we always lean towards. When we have that internal debate between eating ice cream and not eating ice cream, when you win, when your brain wins and you eat ice cream, that's a dopamine superhighway, giving in. That's you giving into a dopamine superhighway. All right. Same thing when we don't work out. Oh, I could sit in and watch a movie. It's kind of brick outside. I don't know that I want to go for that walk. You're giving into your dopamine superhighway. Sometimes it's even subconscious. Sometimes you don't even realize that it's happening. So we need to create new dopamine. We need to pave new dopamine superhighways in our brain to get it done. Hey, listen, I lived in New York for a while. It gets brick. It's brick down where I live right now in Philly. When you know, it's like 25 degrees down here. It's cold. All right. Visualization and accountability. So for visualization, you may not have an iWatch. I wanted to give you a couple of different strategies for visualization. Another really good tool that I give to all of my clients is I ask them to buy one of those calendars, a paper calendar. They're super cheap. You can get them on Amazon for like $5. They're available at any Target or Walmart. You can get them anywhere. Those big tabletop calendars. And then I want you to buy a couple cheap stickers. Okay, so really cheap stickers. And then what I want you to do is, in those calendars, they have a margin on the left-hand side, and they have all your dates down. So for like the month of January, for example, when we have our goal, the one that you wrote down, I want you to write that goal in the margin. And then each day that you have set up, I want you to put a sticker for every time you achieve it. And then I want you to have another sticker for every time you overachieve your goal. So for example, if your goal is to read for 30 minutes and you did 45 minutes, I want you to put your sticker for achieving, and I want you to put your sticker for overachieving. Now, this is the super secret tip. Super secret tip to hacking your brain chemistry even faster than 45 days. This right here is the super secret tip to get to where I was back in August when I told you that I was laying in bed wanting and craving a run. This is how you make it happen. Get your calendar, use your visualization tool, because now we know that based on the way that the dopamine works, and I'm going to go backtrack to show you guys. When we use dopamine, this is how it works. Pleasure that happens, that we feel from our stimulus, to the memory, to searching for that, to then getting the stimulus again, to feeling the pleasure. This is how it works. So when let's say we set our goal to hike 25 miles in a week. Every walk that I went on or hike that I went on, I was getting a dopamine shot. I was getting them, dopamine shot. Then I was getting another dopamine shot every time I saw it, dopamine shot. Then I was getting another dopamine shot every time I overachieved, another dopamine shot. And then when I would look at my week and I saw that I'd overachieve, another dopamine shot. If you want to hack it so you're achieving your goals in faster than 45 days, when you're creating new dopamine superhighways faster than 45 days, you want to see that dopamine. You want to get hits of it all the time. You want to get tons and tons of hits of dopamine. Every visualization tool that you use, you're getting hits of dopamine. That's how you fast track creating and paving these superhighways, through visualization of your goal. So if it's in your phone, through an app, through the iWatch, if it's fitness, or using a calendar, if it's something that's non-fitness related, there's not an app for, through your phone with a reminder tool, whatever it is, I want you to not only have that goal and see it, but I want you to find a way to get more and more hits of that. You want to be junkies for your goals. You want to find as many ways as possible to get dopamine hits while you're trying to achieve your goal. You want to be just constantly looking for that next hit of dopamine towards your goal. That's how you get to the point where I was when I was sitting there laying in bed at 10 o'clock at night, just craving to go on a run, because I was so used to getting the hits of dopamine. I was so used to seeing it. I loved that I could see not only that I was hitting my goal and going for it, but that I was actually achieving it and overachieving it. And I could see all of that. It's such a powerful tool. It's so meaningful and so amazing. So if you don't have it, I want you to, this is your homework. I want you to go out safely, wearing a mask, to a Target or a Walmart, or go on Amazon and buy a paper calendar with a margin and your days for the whole year. And I want you to set your goal that we worked on, we set, we defined, a lot of you wrote down for January. We already have our measurement in mind and we already have our timeline. And I want you to put that in to the margin on the left-hand side, whatever that goal is. And I want you to get stickers or marks or whatever it is for hitting your goal and for overachieving your goal. That is your homework. I'm telling you right now, that is mandatory. You have to do it, okay? Because it's so meaningful. It's so important. So make sure you're doing that. We have to do that. And again, if you need help, I can help you with that. But this is the visualization practice and work. I was able to see every day that I worked out with a green dot. I was able to see every day that I overachieved with my goals, with my move goals, with my calories, with my exercise hours. I was able to see here the breakdown of everything that I was able to do. This is where I want you to be. I want you to be to the point where you can see visually everything because it's a helpful evaluation tool for you. All right, so we have about half hour, 40 minutes left. This time is for you. So I want you all to go, the host, whoever it is, I want you to take everybody off mute. Please, all of you stay on mute. And I want to take some questions and I want to work through some goals with you guys. So I want somebody, and if you're shy, that's okay. You don't feel obligated to, but I want to help you with your goals. So I want, now don't all jump at once. What I would like for you to do is if you're willing to work on your goals with me, I want you to raise your hand virtually in the chat box by just saying, hey, I'd like to work with you. And then I'll call on you, come off mute, and then we'll work through it together. Okay, I can see it. I can see hands raised. Hold on a second. All right, Edwin Reyes, go ahead and go off mute and talk to me about your goal.
All right, so I'm gonna go back to the beginning when you were speaking. So my goal is actually something a little bit long term. So earlier you mentioned that you were going back for business administration, and that's actually what I wanted to go into. So I've been in the workforce for about 15 years, and then I was like, you know what, I need to go back to school, do a little bit of redirection. And then I did extensive research for like the last 6 months. And then now I'm going to school for business management. Then I'm going to transfer into Baruch to go for a BA. So
That's
my
great.
question is, I wanted to go back into banking because that's what I did for a few years in my early 20s. And upon my research, I saw that BA was in finance was actually a good field to get into. So I wanted to be a little bit more specific. And I wanted to get into more so like towards like the stock market.
Yeah. So if you're saying that you're going to get your MBA and you want to get into the stock market, and just want to make sure I'm understanding your goal correctly. So you know you're going towards business and going to school, but you're focusing on finance and going into the stock market for trading.
Yeah, so pretty much am I in the right path based on the research that I've done?
So the first thing I'll tell you is that, you're actually a really good example of this, and I didn't really cover it in the presentation, but even though we set goals, it doesn't mean that we're always going to end up where we're looking for, right? So for example, you were like, yeah, I've been in the workforce for 15 years and I kind of want to go for business. And then as you've done your research, you may have changed path a little bit and decided that maybe it's another area. So the first thing I'll tell you is that goal setting will always keep your arrow pointed in the right direction, regardless of whether you change direction or not. So that's the first thing I'll tell you is that when we set our goals, even if we change direction, our arrow will always be pointed in the right direction as long as we're following that goal, that GMTE foundation, that principle. That'll be the first thing. So the second thing is for you specifically, when you're talking about going into finance and stock trading, usually you'd want to get a degree in finance. That should be your focus. An MBA, now I'm not going to try and deter you from anything. You have to make this decision on your own. But an MBA is something that is going to give you, if you want to be a manager, an executive for like a healthcare institution or a corporation or something like that. So an MBA, a Master's in Business Administration, is not going to send you down the same path. If you want to be in finance and stocks and trading and things like that, having a degree in finance is going to be your number one focus, or even a secondary one might be like accounting, while as less desirable. However, I know a lot of people personally who are financial traders who don't have degrees in that area. So what I would tell you is, if I was in your position, the goal that I would set first of all, before anything else, is to go back to the drawing board in terms of research. And I would do something like, okay, your goal is to want to look at finding out if you, how to get into trading, right? So basically the stock market, getting into finance. So what I would do is I would break my goal down in that way. I would say my first week, so let's say this week we're in now, in January, my first week is to make connections with people in the financial industry on LinkedIn. And set your goal, for example, you set your goal for like connecting with 5 people. I'm going to connect with 5 people and ask them questions about the financial industry, stock market, whatever. And, you could target any kind of company you want. You could target, any big trading company, or even small trading companies, doesn't matter. But just any connections with, and just, go on LinkedIn and type it in and connect with them and say, hey, I'm interested in this question. Or you could go into Clubhouse, for example, that app I was telling you guys at the beginning, the Clubhouse app. If you download the Clubhouse app, it's a bunch of different kinds of conversations that are happening. There's tons of trading conversations that are happening on the Clubhouse app. You can go in there, you can raise your hand, and if they call on you to ask a question, you can ask a question like, hey, I'm trying to get into trading. How do I do that? And then they'll give you some examples. So the first week, what I would do is I would say research, find out, am I on the right path? Talk to people who are in this industry and get advice from them on which track I should go to. Because you might find out that it could just be a fellowship. You might not need to do any other education. You might need to just, get your degree that you have now, finish your degree that you started here, and then you might be able to jump right into it with a fellowship program, or with a program that, one of these institutions has. So ask that question first. And then once you have, then your follow-up goal would be then to start taking action towards that. So for example, it would be applying to degree programs. It would be, if you need that, if they're telling you you need a specific degree. It would be making sure you're making more connections in the industry and things like that. So this is what I call a build goal. So you may not know what the end goal looks like, but you can build towards it as you go. So you do it a weekly goal, and you set, again, a numerical value. And you do, for example, you make 5 connections this week. And then once you get their information and input, then you set a goal for the following week, and then you set a goal for the following week. And that's perfectly acceptable way to do goals. What I'll tell you guys is sometimes your goals will lead to your purpose. You don't have to always have your purpose lead you to starting your goal. Sometimes your goal will lead you to your purpose. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty clear. So yeah, because everything that I've done in the last few months, I have it written down, and everything was pretty much pointing me towards business degree in finance and do business administration. So I thought it was like a subcategory in reference to the stock market. So pretty much based on what you're telling me, it's not a subcategory, it's something different.
Sometimes it can be. Yeah, sometimes it's just like a minor or whatever. But unfortunately, me personally, I don't know a lot about master's level education in terms of finance. I know a lot about my MBA program. I'm doing my MBA in healthcare, executive leadership in healthcare. So I know a lot about that. But I'm giving you the exact same process that I went through when I went to finding out if I wanted to do my MBA or not. At this point, kind of similar to you, I've been in the workforce for close to 15 years too. And I had worked in tons of different industries. I've been a COO of a business. I had been a worker bee for a business. I'd been a professional speaker and coach. And what I realized was in all the training that I was doing and everything else, and after having talked to a lot of professionals, that getting my MBA was something that I was interested in. So I broke the goal down. I did the research phase in 1 week. I started looking at programs. My second week, I started looking in the terms of the finance and what it was going to cost me. And then as I progressed throughout my goal, I kept building on that to get me closer and closer to determining whether or not I wanted to go to school. And then once I determined I wanted to go to school, then it was setting week-to-week goals to get me to be enrolled and then start working on my classwork. So that's how I would recommend you do it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Marte?
Oh yeah, hi.
Hi.
My name is Marty, and this is my first semester, and my goal is to be a midwife.
Great
And to
goal.
be a midwife, you have to do the nursing for 4 years and then go back again for 2 years. But sometimes it's coming on my mind tonight to give up of the midwife. Just finish the nursing and stop it. And this is not the one I wanted. I really want to be a midwife. And
Yeah.
I will want if you can help me. Like I really like this today workshop, it's opened my mind very clearly. And I'm so happy I take this workshop.
Yeah, I'm happy you're here too. So let me ask you first question, just to make sure I'm understanding your goal and where you're currently at.
Yes.
Have you already gotten your nursing degree or not?
Not yet. I just started.
Okay.
I'm doing the prerequisites right now.
Okay, great. So the first thing I'll tell you is, and this is actually fortuitous for you and me, I've been in nursing education for the last 5 years.
Wow.
So I've worked specifically for online nursing schools. I've worked for Chamberlain University and I've worked for American Sentinel University, which are online RN to BSN programs.
Yeah.
But they also have master's level and doctorate level programs. And I've been in nursing education and healthcare for the last 5 years.
Okay.
So I do understand this realm at least a little bit. And what I would tell you is many nurses, when they start out their nursing education, one, this is an amazing profession. And thank you so much for even taking the steps towards this. Again, snaps to you, seriously, because of the pandemic and everything going on. For you to go into a healthcare driven degree program is just truly amazing. So thank you seriously so much for even considering that, because we need you. The second thing is that there are so many different things to do in nursing, like countless different things to do in nursing, that what most of my nursing students and colleagues have said is that they started out, they got their RN, they worked at the bedside for a little while, and then they advanced into either staying at the bedside because they loved it so much, or going into midwifery or family nurse practitioners, or going into a different field. Like you can get your master's in nursing and education, you can get your master's in nursing and informatics. Like there's a million different things you can do. You could work for home healthcare companies, you can work for hospital systems, you can work for you could be a travel nurse, or just a million different things you can do as a nurse. And what I would tell you is that once you go through nursing school and you learn more about what it's like to be a nurse, and then you maybe get hired at a hospital, hospitals oftentimes offer tuition reimbursement for you. So if you determine after you've gotten your bachelor's degree in nursing that you are really still interested in being a midwife, they'll actually pay for you to get your master's degree in midwifery. And you give a couple more.
I'm sorry, I'm currently working in the hospital right now.
Yeah, so your hospitals usually have a tuition reimbursement program. So if you're not using it, make sure you do use it. And you can use that indefinitely. You can use your tuition reimbursement indefinitely. Most of them have some kind of hospitals have some kind of like request or like for every year of tuition reimbursement you use, you have to give them 2 years back. But usually it's like a rolling year. So that's like as you start your schoolwork, that first year is also you're currently working there, right? So it's a rolling time that you give back to the hospital. It's a really good program, a really good way for you to make college, specifically nursing school and advanced education in nursing more affordable. So you don't have to, pay it all out of pocket. But that's what I'd recommend for you. Don't get too far. Again, our goals will lead us to our purpose. So right now, you have an interest in midwifery, but you're not too sure. You don't want to go through all the education. You're not sure if the education is the right step for you. Your first step, again, to give you a good job and a job that's going to pay you well, it's going to work you hard, but we're going to be very thankful for the hard work you're going to do, is going to be get your nursing degree. That's the first step. You can't do anything in nursing until you have your RN anyways. So go ahead and start there. And then a lot of those answers, your goal will lead you to your purpose. So, get your RN, pass that first. That's a 2-year degree. Then get your RN to BSN. That's usually a 1-year degree you can complete online with no clinical requirement. And then once you have that, in 3 years, you're a bachelor's prepared nurse, and you can work at any hospital in the country. Just got to get your license in that state. And you can do tons of different things, from home health care to working in a hospital system to anywhere. And then you can decide based on the benefits of that hospital you're working for, if you want to go into a midwifery program. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And also connect with me on Instagram. And if you have any questions, I have a lot of contacts at a lot of hospitals in New York City and Brooklyn and Queens and the Bronx. And if you're looking at, if you're happy where you're at, that's great. But if you want other connections, I'd be happy to connect you with nurses all over New York City. You can ask questions for them. I can facilitate a conversation for you. I want you to feel comfortable and have a good network to work from. So just follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, can I have your Instagram?
Yep, and it looks like Inara already posted it. So it's just at
Okay,
Dan
I
the
will
Man
check.
Gannon.
All
And
right,
then just
thank you.
DM me.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right. I don't want to butcher this name, but Shauna Sherry.
Yes, thank you. That's great.
Perfect.
Hi, how are you? I had a question. So I wanted to ask, I know that people have goals, but how do you decide what you want your goals to be? I know sometimes we have like a lot of goals and a lot of things that we want to achieve. So like how do you decide which goal you want to go after? And then how do you stay motivated to keep that goal up? Because sometimes that goal isn't what you really want. It's just getting to where you have to get to. So I guess
Yeah.
what I'm asking is how do you kind of break that up properly to like stay sane through the whole process?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I actually get this a lot for my coaching clients. I have one coaching client who she works for a really successful healthcare technology company. And she's very talented, very educated, very skilled, but she's like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be going. She's like, I have an idea, but I'm not really too sure. And so the problem is she feels like she's all over the place. She's kind of setting goals, but then she's not sure if they're sending in the right direction or not. And this is kind of a little bit of the same response that I gave to Edwin, is that if you set goals, they'll always be pointing your arrow in the right direction, even if your goals change. So the first thing I'd tell you is just remember, your goals can lead you to your purpose. You don't have to have a purpose. In some instances, maybe you do want to be a nurse, right? Like for you, as Martha's example, she wants to be a nurse or she wants to do midwifery. So that's just her target point. Now that may change for her, but that's where it's leading her. So for you, you may be like, hey, I just want to get an education and I want to be successful and I want to point myself in a direction, but I'm not too sure what that direction is. That's okay. Set smaller goals that'll lead you in whatever direction it is. And so the first thing I would tell you is it's okay if you don't have as defined a goal as possible. So like in the very beginning, I said, try to have a defined goal. In your instance, let's look at just a general direction to point yourself in. And then let's make smaller goals that'll head us towards that direction. And what you'll find is that when you do that, your goal will lead you to your purpose. You will stay motivated along this because you're seeing your progress. And a good example of this is like, let's say it's like reading a book. If you set a goal to read a book and you start seeing the pages, and the thickness of a book, and you can see how many pages you've actually done, you feel good about constantly reading and achieving your book. And that can be applied to anything we do. So for you, if you're like, I'm not too sure where I'm trying to go, I just want to set a goal or two. Maybe it's, making sure you have great mental health and wellness and fitness wellness. That could be one part of it. If you're already good on that one, maybe you need to pick up the slack somewhere else, or you need to do better in another area. So maybe advancing your education, reading more books, or getting a better professional network. Those are all things that'll help you. Whatever your goal is in the future will help you get there faster, give you shortcuts. Making deeper, more meaningful connections in any industry will help you with that. So there's so many different ways you can do that, and then having that goal broken down. So maybe it's like, every week you have to connect with 2 new people on LinkedIn and have conversations with them in their industry to ask more questions about it, to see if that is something that is what you might be interested in. And then again, as we make those connections, you'll start feeling good about that, and that'll motivate you internally. Our dopamine process is actually an internal motivator. And that's really what I wanted to get you guys to get when you follow this process. If you're leveraging dopamine in the right way and you have a visual way to track it and you have it outlined so that it's measurable, even if it's something you're not too sure where you're trying to get to, it'll help you stay motivated along the path. And honestly, this is one of those things where like you and I would probably, if I was coaching you and I would have a conversation about what your personal interests are, where you're currently at, what you would like to do. Because even if you don't know exactly where you're trying to go, you might be like, hey, I just want to I want to make a lot of money. I want to have better financial stability. I want to be out of debt. Like those types of goals are still something that we can guide us towards a direction, even if we don't know specifically where that is yet. Does that help you?
Yes, it really does. And then I was hoping that you could help me break down one of my goals using your formula.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, one of my goals is to gain 5 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to gain the 5 pounds, but I also want to document it while I'm doing it to inspire other people. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's like 3 goals in one almost, but it's still one goal. So using your formula, how would I break that down?
Yeah. So the goal is, again, defining the goal, it's to gain 5 pounds. Now, I would also set a timeline to that. So let's say gain 5 pounds by March. Again, I don't know, and you can use this flexible. You don't have to give any personal information that you're not willing to share, but usually you want to set something that's challenging but achievable. So if it's really difficult for you to gain weight, and specifically like muscle or healthy weight, then you would want to give yourself a good enough timeline that you can, get those pounds added over, whatever that course is. So for example, maybe it's the end of February, that's 6 weeks from now. Maybe it's the end of March or the beginning of March, whatever it is. So look at what your timeline is. And then what I would do is break that down to its smallest measurable in all the different areas you're interested in. So for example, to gain weight, you have to go to the gym. To gain weight, you have to eat different types of foods, things that are going to put a healthy weight on your body. So we don't want to eat Doritos and Twinkies and stuff like that. That's unhealthy weight. So we want to do things that are high in protein, high in healthy fats that are going to add healthy weight to our bodies. And we're going to have to exercise, and you're going to have to do resistance training, which is weightlifting, to actually build muscles. So then what you would do is, your third goal is to document that. Then you just document what you do. Set up whatever your training method is for that week and see if it sticks to it. If you stick to it, then you share your training method, going to the week X a number of days, and what kind of workouts you did, what your diet looked like. Take pictures of your diet, make a food journal. So as you're documenting this and you're working towards your own personal goal, you have all of these resources that you've been documenting and that you can share on Instagram, TikTok, social media, whatever it is. You can share it. You have it. If you wanted to get into coaching clients, you can share that with your coaching clients, how you broke it down and how this is how you did it. You can repeat, based on your personal histories, whatever, you can repeat this. So they're all kind of built in, working with each other while you're reaching your goal. So set your goal of gaining 5 pounds, set your timeline, whatever that looks like for you. Your measurable might be a certain number of pounds gained every week or 2 weeks, plus whatever you're doing to get to that point. So, you want to gain a pound, okay, in 3 weeks, let's say. Okay, so for 3 weeks, I'm going to break it down each week, where I'm going to work out 3 times in the gym. I'm going to eat a certain number of increased calories per day. So, your current calorie count is 1,000. You're going to go to 1,500 calories. And I believe, and this is just going back to my way back personal training days, 2,500 calories is 1 pound. So if you increase your calorie count, like 500 calories a day, or 3,500. Thank you, Anthony. It's been a while. It's been like 10 years. So yeah, 3,500 calories. So 500 calories or whatever that is a day will get you 1 extra pound a week, they say, right? And obviously it's not that smooth of a calculation, but it's pretty close. So that would be a way to do it. I've increased my, my food intake by X number of calories, and I did this amount of working out every day or every other day or whatever it is. And then you just journal all of that, journal the foods you ate, journal everything. And then every week, if you're hitting your goal, you're not gaining weight or you're gaining weight, you can evaluate and add. And that's where the last part of that comes in, the evaluation, the E, the effectiveness piece, understanding what's working and not working. If after 3 weeks you haven't gained a pound, maybe you need to increase your calorie intake. If you've increased your calorie intake and you're eating too much, maybe you need to do more resistance training. And then that'll help you continue to craft your goal and to meet your goal at the end of gaining 5 pounds, but also by staying on track and then sharing those changes with whoever it is that you're trying to share it with, either on social media or with clients that you may have or whatever.
Okay, great.
Was that helpful?
Yes, so perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, Cindy, you have your hand up.
Hello, thank you so much for your presentation. That was very interesting and helpful. And I have like a lot of goals in my life. And one goal that recently came to my mind is maybe I was thinking of I could run a half marathon, which I would like think is like kind of a crazy goal because I started running during the pandemic. I hated running all my life, like kind of what you had, just for different reasons. I'm a cyclist and I would always just commute with my bicycle, and I was like, I hate running, I don't like it. And then the pandemic happened and there was nothing really to do. So I started running, and it was really hard for me the first couple of weeks. I was really slow. I just did like, I don't know, 2-3 miles. And now I love it and I'm kind of addicted to it. Like I need it. It's probably that dopamine superhighway works already. And then I was like, last week, for the first time, I almost hit 8 miles, and I was like, wow, I really improved. And not that I really set a goal to, oh, I have to run more and more and more. I never had it. I was just like, I needed it as a balance for my life. And then now it's like, it's not so much more for a half marathon. So I was thinking like, what are the steps that I could take to make that achievable, to achieve that goal?
Well, the great thing is you've already started, right? So I get a lot of clients who are interested in doing a half marathon but don't run. So you've already got a good leg up. You've already got a good jump start to it. So that's the really positive thing. You have some really good momentum to build on. So what I would do is the first thing that I would do is I would pick a half marathon to do. And whatever that is, a challenging but achievable timeline for you. So I don't know in terms of obviously with the pandemic, what things are happening or not, but I'm sure that there are some that are always planned. And so I would look for some half marathons that are happening within a timeline that's comfortable for you that you think you could achieve. So maybe that's, in spring, or maybe that's in fall, or maybe that's summer, whatever that timeline is, I would look at a half marathon that you can train for and reach towards. So that's your timeline. You're almost setting your goal and your timeline simultaneously. I'm going to run the Rock and Roll half marathon in New York City in September, right? So now you have X number of months to train for that. Or maybe I'm going to do the New York City half marathon in May. So now you have X number of months to train for that. I would say, you have the advantage if there's anybody else that's listening. If you want to run a half marathon and you haven't started running, don't run a half marathon in less than 6 months of training. Unless you're already very physically fit, just because our bodies aren't technically designed to run on concrete. That's not something we're anatomically supposed to be doing. So it takes a lot of training and time. Now, Cindy, you have the advantage. You've been running. So for you, that's a truncated timetable. You could probably reach your half marathon comfortable running in terms of pushing yourself, but finishing in 3 months. And so what you would do is, let's say it's 3 months, just to use that as an example, January 15th to March 15th is when your half marathon is. I would break down a running goal for you by reverse engineering what you normally do, but have it challenging, but achieving. So let's say, and again, without knowing what you do on your runs, let's say you average 5 miles 3 days a week. So you're averaging 15 miles a week. So to do a half marathon, you're going to have to get to 13.1. So we would want to say, if I'm already running 15 miles a week, I want to increase that a little bit. So let's go to maybe it's 20 miles a week. And then that if you have to run 20 miles a week, you're going to have to increase that by 6.5, 7 miles for my 3 runs that I usually go on. And that's you pushing yourself to go above your average of 5 miles a day. Or 5 miles, whatever day you work out. And then you continue to build on that. So once, after maybe 3 weeks or 2 weeks, if that 7 miles is becoming easy, then you want to jump it up to 10 or to 8 miles. And then you have that goal. It's, instead of 20, now it's 23 miles or 24 miles a week. And again, you can use that left or right lateral limits. The idea is to keep yourself in some kind of week to week measurement plan that you have. So you can measure I know I'm going to, maybe it's not 5 miles. Maybe that's too far for a consistent run. Maybe you do a couple 2-milers and then a nice long one. Also, by the way, a lot of marathon runners, they fit in wind sprints into their training because it really boosts that cardiovascular strength that you're going to need, that cardiovascular muscle strength that you're going to need for when you really push yourself for these long endurance runs. So a lot of them will fit in wind sprints and stuff like that to get their lungs and their heart used to having to really fight for air and pumping your blood. So a lot of the marathon runners, they train not only by doing a lot of distance endurance runs, but they also add in other types of training as well to train their muscles, to train their lungs, all that kind of stuff. So I would say if I was in your position, I would set a 3-month goal and I would do a combination of miles per week that I'm doing and alternative training that I'm doing. So that's either wind sprints or resistance training of some kind, like fitting in squats and maybe body weight exercises to strengthen my leg muscles, those kinds of things, so that I'm most prepared when my marathon rolls around in March.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Anybody else have any questions? I know we have about 10 minutes left. I'm more than happy to give you back give you guys some of your time back, but I'm also happy to work with you on your goals. Also, if you are too shy or too uncomfortable, that's totally okay. Feel free to reach out to me. Reach out to me on Instagram, just at Gannon. We can set up a call if you want. I respect so much the work that Jason does with all of you guys and all of you as students. I have no problem communicating with you. This is not a push to get you as a coaching client. I have no problem talking to you on the phone for an hour. I actually have a scheduling app where you can schedule time with me for an hour and we can chit chat for a while. I can help you square away your goals. I want you to feel like you're getting the best possible start to 2021 as you can. So I'm your accountability buddy to get you going, get your goals squared away. I have no problem doing that for you guys, giving you an hour of my time to make sure you're getting 2021 off to the right start. And if there's anything that I could leave you with, it is follow the template. It really does work. It's very simple, but follow the template. Put the work in. The foundational work of actually writing out your goal will make you so much more efficient and effective as you move forward. It really does make a difference. If you just set a goal, hey, I want to run a half marathon. Well, yeah, you're just setting a goal, but you're not making any positive movement towards that goal. You could train and run, but maybe you're not prepared. Maybe you're over prepared. Maybe you're under prepared, but you just don't know because you're not following the template. So follow the guideline, get an accountability buddy, create a visualization tool so you can see what you're doing. Again, using the marathon as an example, get a calendar, write it down what your goal is and when you're trying to do it on the margin side, and then get stickers or write an X for every time you do your exercise towards that goal. And then do another X or another sticker for something like when you're overachieving your goal. Because again, when we see it, we set the goal, and then when we actually perform the action of our goal, we're getting a dopamine hit. But we're also getting dopamine hits when we see that we're hitting our goals. So every time you pass by that calendar, your dopamine hit. And every time you pass by that calendar and you see the times you hit, and then you see the times you overachieve, another dopamine hit. So this is where we really make that paving of our new superhighways the most effective, is not only by setting these goals and following the template, but then also by meaningfully putting together a visualization strategy, looking for an accountability partner. An accountability partner doesn't have to be somebody that's going to go on the runs with you or work out with you. They don't have to be that. They just have to be somebody that that's going to say, did you do it? And they're going to give you that kick in the butt that you need to make sure that if you've gone 4 or 5 days without doing it, that they're getting you back on track. Or that you can share some challenges or struggles that you have, to kind of maybe open up some pathways to overcoming those challenges, right? So again, what I told you is a lot of my coaching clients, they use me to remove barriers. That's my job. I teach them how to set goals, but really what my job is to learn about their personal lives, to learn about the things that are challenging them, so that I can help them remove their barriers. Goal setting allows you to do that. And accountability buddy is the person who might see things from a different perspective that'll really open up your mind to maybe a goal or a challenge that you didn't have before and you need to add an adjustment to. Are there any last second questions before I give you guys back some time in your day?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just because it's been the pandemic the last year, I've had a lot of goals. I just moved to New York over a little bit over a year ago. And I came here with all these ideas of what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And then the pandemic hit almost instantaneously on my arrival. So there are so many things that I haven't been able to do that I really wanted to. And so it's kind of depressing. How do you deal with that when your goals are stopped not by you not having the drive, but by this outside source?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And the first thing I'll tell you is that you're not alone in this. So many people, maybe not moving to, maybe there's not as many people moving to New York and then have, a whole new experience and then having the entire city shut down around them. But a lot of people are experiencing the same thing where in terms of maybe they started a new job and then that job was lost, or, whatever it may be. And so you're not alone in this. By asking the questions, you're already taking positive movement forward. So snaps to you for just understanding wow, yeah, this happened. And, I have all these goals, but, I just got to realize and understand my reality. The next thing I would tell you is it's always good to center yourself, refocus, and set something new that points you in a direction. What I tell a lot of my clients who feel stuck is we feel stuck because we're not taking action. So even if whatever our plans were, they all go to hell, right? Everything is blown up around us and we don't know what to do. Center yourself and figure out whatever something is that's important to you. Again, maybe it's your mental health, maybe it's your physical health, maybe it's friends or making connections. I know the pandemic is totally unique in the sense that the world around us is not the same. We can't go out like we used to. We can't make connections the way we traditionally are used to doing it, whatever. But when we find what our purpose is in terms of what makes us excited or happy or what leads us to feeling fulfilled, whatever that may be, hone in on that. So maybe it's reading, maybe it's lifelong learning, stuff like that. Hone in on that and make that your goal. And as the world opens up around you, you'll find that will actually lead you to your purpose. So as an example, let's say, you're here, so you're obviously a student, or you're interested in, learning, you want to be a learner. So focus on that. Focus on being a lifelong learner. Make that your purpose, and whatever else adds to that purpose. So meeting new people, connecting with your faculty, your professors, and learning from them, really diving deep into the curriculum, whatever it is that you're interested in, make that your focus. Focus on those low-hanging fruits, those things that are right in front of you that you can do, and then build from that. Just start small, little wins. Meet a new faculty member, meet a new classmate, connect with them on a social media app, and hang out with them, do a virtual meet, set up I know this sounds crazy, but maybe there's a bunch of people in your classroom that feel the same way you do. Set up a happy hour Zoom call with people in your class. We're not even going to talk about class. We just want to get together, drink some wine, if you're of legal age, and have a good time and just get to know your classmates. They're all going through the same thing that you are. So little things like that help us be fulfilled. They're also little goals that progress us in whatever we're interested in. So maybe what your goal is to set up one happy hour for every one of your classes in the month of January. And now you're meeting people, you're connecting with people that are going to help you maybe be study buddies or accountability buddies. You help set goals with you. Like, there's so many things you can get from doing something even just as simple as that. And it's all within whatever you're feeling good about now. That would be the way that I would try to avoid, feeling stuck, feeling, I had all these lofty goals, but obviously I can't do them because there's no jobs available. There's nothing that I can do. I can't be on Broadway. I can't be, Broadway's totally shut down. How am I going to be a musical theater artist? Or, how am I going to be a writer? There's no TV going right now. Like, movies are all stopped. Like, how am I going to do that? Let me just focus on what's right in front of me, set small goals, and my goals will lead me to my purpose. Was that helpful?
It was. Thank you very much. That's all very
You're
helpful.
very welcome. And again, I have a lot of connections in New York City for all of you guys. So if any of you are living in New York City and you're in different industries, I might be able to help you. So, feel free to reach out to me, connect with me on Instagram. We can communicate via email. We can set up a Zoom call. I can talk to you and see if there's a way that I can help you. I will most certainly help you. I have a lot of connections nationwide. I really can connect you to so many different types of people. So don't feel like you're stuck ever. You can always reach out. And I can help you in so many different ways other than just goal setting. Okay, so there's 3 minutes left. I want to do one thing real quick before I let you go. Please, if you could all just give some snaps to Jason and the Student Leadership Academy for putting this whole week together. There is so much work that goes into this. Snaps to them. All of the work, the effort, the getting the speakers together, finding us, getting us to be available for you. That takes a tremendous amount of effort, and they deserve all of the respect for that. So if you can, what I would like you to do, my request to all of you, send them a quick note saying thank you. If you found that my presentation today was helpful, the presentation earlier this morning, or any session that you attend throughout this week, take a moment to just say thank you. Thank you to them for taking the time, amidst all the challenges that they have, to do that. Don't just thank me, thank them. Thank them for what they're doing. And thank you, Jason, for putting that on there. These are the people that you need to thank. They're the ones who put all this hard work into it, choosing the speakers, drafting, the curriculum for this week. These are the people that need the recognition. They put a lot of work into this. So just give them some snaps, send them an email, send them a message, say thank you so much for doing this for us and putting this together for us. And with that, I will tell you all, do it for the dopamine. It's a really simple process. We can do it no matter what your goal is. Just keep in mind, do it for the dopamine. We love it. You guys are great. Thank you so much for listening to me talk my head off for 2 hours. Again, connect with me on Instagram at Dan_the_Man_Gannon. If you need any help, I'm always here for you. It's been a genuine pleasure, and I'll turn it off to Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we get your email also? Do you have an email where we can contact you later?
We get you the information, Dan. Okay. Thank you so much, Dan. This has been great. I think that it's been super inspirational for the group. I don't know, you guys can give them a virtual round of applause if you feel like it was super inspirational. It's great. I mean, thank you for volunteering your time and giving so much to the members of our community. I think it's really important. You're going to stop share. These, just so that you guys know, these are the members of the committee who have been helping out. They're responsible for putting everything together. They've been here all week long. Make sure you try to connect with them over the course of the week. And I just want to, we have one more thing that we have to do. Denise, are we ready with that? Where's Denise? Denise, okay, so it is the birthday of our namesake. Eugenia Maria de Hostos was born on this day, and Denise Feliz, a part of our committee, actually baked the cake. We can't give you any cake, but we baked the cake just so that we can have it. Let me see if I can pin you. There you go, everybody. Look at that beautiful cake. She made enough cake for like 28 people. And she's gonna have to do it all by herself. But we thought that Isabel, she thought that we have to sing happy birthday to our namesake. So we'll do that. Can I have the entire committee and all the guests sing happy birthday? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday.
Can we start that over? I didn't know.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Hostos. Happy birthday to you. Are you what? Sorry.
Are you two?
No, it's 182.
Are you three?
No, we're not gonna do
Are you
it.
five?
Well, you're not counting until 182.
Happy birthday to our community Hostos.
All right, thank you for being here, Dan. Thank you again.
Happy birthday.
Aw.
Happy birthday.
All then. Have a great rest of the afternoon. Thank you for being here. We really had a good time.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you.
Tomorrow, thank you.
Bye, Mr. Dan. Bye. Thank
Thank
you all for being here. See you tomorrow.
Take care, everybody.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye.